Welcome to Hillsborough Public Library's podcast, I Blame My Shelf. I am Brendan. I'm a librarian here at the library.
And I'm Jen. I'm a library assistant.
And we are doing something a little different today. We're going to do a kind of a podcast within a podcast, I call it. We're doing a special series of episodes. We're going to try out something new. We're calling it FOMO TV, the first and last.
I like that. Yeah.
I think
did you come up with that yourself?
I was thinking FOMO would be good. Yeah. So the concept is we all live busy lives. We don't have the time to watch all the TV shows that people recommend us, or go back and watch shows we missed. And the number of shows just keeps increasing, and people are suffering from FOMO. They are fearing of missing out on some good shows, and we're here to help solve that with what we think might be a solution to the problem.
Yes.
If you want to watch a TV show, what you could do is watch the first episode of the show and then the last, and then maybe you've seen enough and that's good enough, and you can tell all your friends at parties that you've seen that show, and you might have enough talking points to go off of. We're going to...
Hopefully they don't bring up anything that happens in the middle, because then you might be lost.
Right. Well, you can fill in the gaps. Me and Jen are going to try to do that today with Buffy the Vampire Slayer is our first one to try. And we kind of landed on that because we figured it would be something that like a lot of the library people will be interested in, because there seems to be a lot of fans around here.
It seems like a lot of people at this library love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So I'm afraid now it's like I have to be positive. I can't say anything negative. I gotta be really nice, because I don't want to make any of the Buffy fans mad. So
we're kind of setting ourselves up to
fail.
No, setting ourselves up to maybe make a few people upset with our opinions and our hot takes on Buffy. But
yeah, we got to keep in mind that this came out in 1997, so that was a while ago. Things were different at that time.
Yeah,
and it was a product of its time.
This show was created by Joss Whedon, and we just like to say that there's a lot of problematic stuff that has come out about Joss Whedon, and this episode is not an endorsement of him as the creator or anything like that. It's just a celebration of the show that a lot of people know and love. Well, do you want to start there? Do you want to take us back to 1997?
Sure. I did a little bit of research to find out, or just kind of jog my memory, what was going on in 1997. And so the Hale-Bopp comet, do you remember that?
The people who...
Yeah, the Heaven's Gate thing. Yeah. But also it was just the closest that comet ever got to Earth, so that was kind of interesting. The Teletubbies premiered. Oh,
so it had some competition when it first got out of the gate.
Right. The English Patient won Best Picture that year.
Okay.
Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was published.
First published. I was going to say the movie came out in the 2000s. Okay,
yeah,
but
this is the first book. And the Titanic movie premiered.
Interesting.
Seinfeld was one of the most popular TV shows.
Okay.
At the time. And which was really funny, I looked up the top few songs of the year. And do you remember LeAnn Rimes? How Do I Live was number one, and I have no memory of that song. I don't know anything about it. But the number two was Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba.
Number two song of the year?
Number two song, yeah.
Okay.
Number three, and I know you'll remember this one. You could probably even sing some of it. Semi-Charmed Life by Third Eye Blind.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was...
And then number four...
From the ledge. Oh, that was a different song. Okay.
Oh, no. That was a different song.
Okay. I'm surprised. I thought there would have been like Britney or something.
It's like,
someone in there.
I want something. I want something else to get me through this semi-charmed kind of life. Well, here you go. Bop by Hanson was number 4. So.
Okay. And those guys are all like in their 50s now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are they in their 50s?
How long has it been since 97? It's been 25 years?
I don't think they're in their 50s, because I'm not even 50 yet, and I was older than them, I feel like, when that song came out.
Right. This is the 25th anniversary of the show.
Yeah.
Actually, now that I think about it. So it's kind of perfect.
Yeah, it is. Good timing. So anyways, that's kind of what was going on. And then I tried to put myself into my 1997 brain and figure out why I hadn't watched Buffy, because it kind of seems like something I would have watched, because I love fantasy. I love supernatural stuff. I love the paranormal. But at the time, like my son was born that year and my youngest child. So I guess maybe I didn't have as much time to watch TV. And what I was into was the X-Files and Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Star Trek Voyager
started.
Deep Space Nine, I wrote it down just in case you tried to fight me on anything, was from 93 to 99.
Okay.
And
well, most Star Trek shows overlap a little bit.
They did
right?
overlap 95 to 2001 for Voyager. So they were both on the air in 1997.
Gotcha. Okay. I was sophomore in high school, maybe. I don't know. I think the shows on the WB and eventually the CW were not my cup of tea during my high school years. I probably saw previews or whatever, commercials for it, and the makeup. I remember the styling of the monsters just wasn't something I wanted to see. I don't know.
I think that's exactly it for me. Like at the time, I loved Anne Rice and Anne Rice style vampires, or even like Gary Oldman as Dracula in the Dracula movie. Like that was the type of vampire that I liked. And so as soon as I saw the kind of creature that they called vampire in Buffy, it was just like, no, that's not what I want out of a vampire.
Right. I'm trying to think. There was no change really in the vampires from like Interview with the Vampire, like the film. Like they didn't look different.
I think
other than their fangs
could extend, but other than that, I mean, they still looked gorgeous and mysterious and, you know, the whole time.
Yeah. So the idea of them morphing into something other, it wasn't. That
turned me off, and I just think like that it just seemed like kind of cheesy, the martial arts moves and just the whole idea of it. I want to say I felt like I kind of missed out on something when it got really popular. And at the time, I felt like I didn't have a way of jumping in. Now you can jump into a show easy. You know, you can get the whole season from the library. You can, you know, stream it on a million different streaming services. But back then, if you missed out on something, you kind of missed out on it until it went into syndication. And then you'd have to just try to like catch up with.
Right. And shows would go into syndication before they, like while they're still coming out with new episodes. Yeah. Yep. Just never was my thing, but is it my thing now?
We're
gonna find out.
Is
that a good pivot into episode?
Maybe we should figure out what we watched.
Okay, so we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna go watch episode 1, and then we'll come back to discuss what we think.
All right.
All right, we are back from watching episode 1 of season 1, titled "Welcome to the Hellmouth." It premiered March 10th, 1997 on the WB. That was another thing. It was hard to find streaming of the show because it was leaving Amazon and going somewhere else. Maybe it was on Hulu, I think.
Hulu only has the first season.
Right. So it was on, this show was on the WB for a number of seasons, then transferred to UPN. So it went from Warner Brothers to Paramount. And then I read that Fox owns the distribution rights now, and Fox is owned by Disney. So maybe it'll end up on Disney Plus, but like, it's another good reason to go see what your library has, because you can just get the DVDs from us. And if you still have your DVD player, you don't have to worry about owning all streaming services and having to find which streaming service has it and be disappointed. So it starts, and I think we watched this first episode both on Amazon. So there was like an intro voiceover explaining what a Slayer is, and it lasted like 7 seconds. It was the weirdest little intro. I can't imagine that being a good hook back in the day, pulling you into the show, but it was like, there was like a few gravestones and they said they're Slayers and they're out there to kill vampires.
In every generation, there is a chosen one. She alone will stand against the vampires, the demons, and the forces of darkness. She is the Slayer.
Well, they said in every generation, there's a chosen one.
Right. So there's a little exposition, I guess, in the beginning, but it was so brief.
Have you ever seen the movie, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie?
Right. I have.
Okay.
Maybe like 30 years ago.
I have never seen it, but I heard that.
Christy Swanson.
Yes.
And Donald Sutherland, I think.
Yeah.
Was what we'll learn is the Watcher. There's a new one in the show, but because there's references to like what she did prior to leaving LA.
Right.
So I think it's just a continuation of.
I heard that it was a continuation. I haven't seen the movie, so I had no idea what I was going into. I didn't know about anything previous to this first episode.
So it right after that little intro, it kicks right into nighttime at Sunnydale. Sunnyside?
Sunnydale.
Okay, got that right.
Right,
So
it is Sunnydale, right?
Sunnyside. Oh, we're going to screw that up now. I think it was Sunnydale.
I'm pretty sure it was Sunnydale. And I read that the high school that is filmed in is the same high school that was filmed 90210 was filmed in.
Oh, okay. So there's a couple that breaks into the school and they're just, I don't know what they're doing.
It's
the guy
typical.
used to go to the high school. They smash in through a window. It seems kind of ridiculous.
It's what you've seen before with the guy kind of coax the girl to go in and do this. And she's like, what's that noise? I'm scared. And I thought, oh, brother, I've seen this before. But
and then she was the noise.
Yeah.
She was.
What was hilarious about that? Honestly, it surprised me. Yeah. I wasn't expecting to get surprised like that. But so she says, what's that noise? And he kind of turns around and then she just turns into a vampire and like bites him on the neck. Yeah. So that surprised me.
So it got you with the jump scare.
Yeah, I was like, cool. Right. Okay, this might not be so bad.
It did not get me with the jump scare, but I actually wasn't expecting her to be the vampire. But it was our first look at the makeup and we've already kind of discussed it a little bit. Like just really distorted features, like in a like almost like Star Trek,
like Klingon-esque. Maybe a big forehead, right? And like kind of just puffy looking, like
it was like an alien of the week that would be on Star Trek. But for some reason, I don't mind that kind of stuff on Star Trek as much. I don't know.
What is it?
I don't know. I don't like the design of the vampire. I'm sorry.
And I just know it's because I like a certain type of vampire, and this isn't it. Mm-hmm. That's what I know.
All right. And then it just kicks right into the theme and the credits.
Did you hear, do you know anything about the theme song?
I think I wrote down it was Nerf Herder.
Yeah, that's what
which, I only know for the Van Halen song. Was that their big hit?
Well, Star Wars, there was that part where Princess Leia calls Han Solo a scruffy Nerf herder.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, Star Wars reference.
Yeah. Well, I do remember the band had a song about Van Halen called Van Halen. So.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
We'll drop that in right now.
Yeah, let's do it.
I bought Van Halen 1. It was the best record I ever owned. Teaching why 1978.
All right. And
wow, that was great.
All right, so Buffy is having nightmares when we cut from credits back to the show. I read that it was scenes from future episodes that were in her nightmares. I didn't know if they were going to go with she knows what she is already, but yeah, since it's a continuation from the movie, she already knows she's a Slayer, I guess.
I didn't know that. I thought, this is where she's going to find out. I thought that going into this, that this was going to be about somebody finding out that they're the chosen one, because I didn't know anything about the previous movie. So when she started having the dreams, I just thought, oh, this is her first clues that she's kind of come into some place where there's a lot of supernatural activity, and maybe that's going to trigger something.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of a twist on like your expectations. Not necessarily like in a better way.
Just a different way. It's just I was kind of like, oh, there's a point when it comes out that,
she already knows.
Right.
And so she's off to a first day at a new school. Her mom says she has issues with getting kicked out of schools. That was kind of a funny little reveal. That she's a problem of some sort. We don't really know why. And then there's a cut to a boy skateboarding.
Yeah.
Spoiler, like one of my least favorite characters of the episode is Xander, I guess, skateboarding around. I read that this was the only scene of any of the episodes he was ever skateboarding in.
I know something about I just wanted to let this drop. Ryan Reynolds. Yes, the Ryan Reynolds that almost played Xander. Ooh, like he was literally offered that role. I would have
liked that.
And guess what? He said, no, I don't want to, because I don't want to be reminded of high school. And I don't want to play a high school boy. And so I don't want to play it. Then something else kind of interesting. Nathan Fillion from Firefly auditioned for Xander, but did not get the part.
Wasn't he like a 40-year-old man at the time?
Nathan Fillion?
At the time? Like in 97? I feel like he's like 60s now.
No, I want to look that up. We'll find out. We're gonna find out. You can't just say Nathan Fillion was a 40-year-old man in 1997.
Yeah. He's like, I want to be the guy who skateboards.
This was way before Firefly
or something. We're going to find out how old
Okay.
Nathan Fillion is and then subtract 25 years.
Yeah.
He's age 51, so he would have been 26.
Okay. That's a far cry from.
He's just, in my mind, he's always an older guy.
Okay.
I don't know.
Interesting.
He just looks older than he really is, maybe.
Maybe.
All right. Well, anyways, the guy who was playing Xander is the guy who ended up getting the job as Xander. So
There you
I don't know.
there
We do
you
not know the
go.
name of the actor.
It is what it
he
is.
He beefs it on the skateboard when he checks out Buffy, and then it turns out he's friends with Willow, who is, as far as we know so far, a brainy gal,
Seems
kind
brainy.
of shy or reserved. And then there's this third dude, Jesse, who pops by, and he and Xander both agree that Buffy is a hottie.
Hey, Jesse, what's what? New girl. That's right, I saw her. Pretty much a hottie.
I saw that, yeah. Well, I mean, I have to say, I really do not want to critique the way anyone looks in this show, but everyone, all the girls are very put together. And the boys look like how teenage boys look, but the
Scruffy.
girls are, Buffy is supposed to be 16 years old, and I don't know, she looks kind of like a Sears model or something, like, you know what I mean? And also, did they not have the fingertip rule at this school? Like, remember the fingertip rule where you put your hands down by your sides, and if your skirt was like above your fingertips, it was a no-go?
Well, I don't know. Public schools don't usually have very strict dress codes. At least not nowadays.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But I don't think they
For
care
context,
for
I
the
went to
show.
Catholic school.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. So then we're introduced kind of the cast of characters that was in the credits. Then we have Buffy talking to the principal, and he says, "We start fresh here," and rips up her transcript. And then she talks about burning down a gym.
She starts to say because of vampires, but then she changes it to asbestos.
Oh, gotcha.
And then I love it because after he rips up her thing, gets the tape out and starts taping it back together.
I think he realizes there's enough in there that he should probably keep it around. He doesn't even line up any corners. It's really frustrating to watch.
I didn't even notice that.
But then Buffy leaves, and then
oh yeah, so she gets bumped into by a different student and drops her bag, and everything falls out. And then Xander stops and helps her put almost everything back into her bag.
Right. So then Xander rushes over to help and says, "Can I have you?" instead of "Can I help you?"
Oh yeah, that was great.
Can I have you? Can I help you?
Oh, that was great. Yeah.
Yeah, you're liking Xander's lines throughout.
I wasn't liking it. It just seemed like everything I'd heard before a million times, kind of situation. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was starting to get a little irritated with Xander's dialogue, but I think ultimately the blame will fall on Josh Whedon for.
Let's blame him.
Joss
I think
Whedon.
we should.
Yeah.
Now, at this point, have we been introduced to Cordelia?
She's coming up next because
Okay.
Buffy goes into her first class and they're studying the Black Plague. And then there's Cordelia, who starts chatting up Buffy, and they have a cool test, which I don't know if you would have passed the cool test
I don't
in
think I would've.
97. Vamp nail polish.
Yeah, so I think that would have been in at the time.
So over was the answer.
Oh, so over. Okay.
James Spader.
I think they said he should call me. And
Yeah.
you know what I was thinking about? Do you totally know what I was thinking about? Robert California from The Office. That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, because that's a later thing, though. That was like way after this. But James Spader in 97, I have no idea what the reference. Why are they talking about him? This is Joss Whedon being weird.
I know, because like when I think of James Spader at his height, that was probably like Pretty in Pink, right?
Right. He was in some of those.
Yeah, some of those Brat Pack movies.
Yeah.
And that was probably almost 10 years prior to when this premiered. So I don't understand why they brought up James Spader. I don't think at the time, he was the guy. But, I could be wrong.
Yeah. And I wouldn't have known who he was back then, probably.
I just had a baby, so I had no idea who the it guy was at the time.
Well, Frappuccinos.
Oh, Frappuccinos. Were those a new invention in 97?
Must have been. Because the answer was trendy but tasty. What we were looking for.
I didn't know they were trendy, but they are tasty.
And question number 4, John Tesh.
Oh, Entertainment Tonight? That's all I can think of.
Right. For some reason, they both say in unison the devil.
John Tesh, the devil.
I don't know why.
You know why? It's because he had a music career that was like, I think he was for moms. right?
He's kind of like a Yanni or no,
Yeah,
not Yanni.
not
Kind of
Yanni,
who's
like
the
adult
guy on the
contemporary.
kazoo thingy.
Kazoo.
No, the big clarinet. No, the alto sax.
Oh, that guy. Oh my gosh. Now I can't.
The long hair,
Kenny G.
So he was kind of like a Kenny G, I guess.
I think so.
In the music industry. Okay, that makes a little sense.
And teenagers would not have been
Right.
into that.
Yeah. So she passes the test, and then Cordelia then finds Willow in the hall and bullies her a bit, which is not cool. I'm not liking Cordelia.
It feels
much.
like cool kids versus nerds, which is
Yeah.
such a typical thing to happen. But then part of me is thinking, is this Cordelia girl, like by the last episode, will she'll be part of like Buffy's, gang, and she'll be, she'll have calmed down a little bit and
Right. So So I don't know where the character will go if she becomes a character that helps Buffy or works against her. But so she mentions the Bronze, which is horribly named kind of club. I guess
cool club.
they're
for
going to
cool
meet later
kids.
at the Bronze.
Mhm.
And then Buffy heads off to the library to get some books. So here we are at the library,
Yay!
which is a really cool school library.
Can I help you?
I was looking for some, books. I'm new.
Miss Summers?
Good call. Guess I'm the only new kid, huh?
I'm Mr. Giles, the librarian.
Did you? I kind of was doing a little bit of research, and I read that the cast hated the library.
The setting?
Yeah, they hated filming anything in there because it was always the same sort of scenes that were like a ton of exposition talking about what the, further on in the series, what the threat was going to be, what the danger was going to be. And it was like a ton of exposition and it was really boring. And so the cast.
So when they were filming in the library, it meant they were just going to be hanging out and not doing anything interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
usually listening to that
Weird.
librarian character drone on and on and on.
Well, that guy shows up. He is the librarian, Mr. Giles.
Is it Giles or Giles?
Buffy fans have told me Giles. That makes no sense. It should be Giles. But we'll just go with whatever we say is okay.
We'll just go back and forth. We'll say it Giles sometimes and Giles sometimes.
He gives Buffy a vampire book, so obviously he knows who she is. And she runs off. And so this probably was your first moment
That was
where
my first clue. Where
that
I
she
was
knows what's
like,
up.
oh wait, she already. And then I was thinking, it all kind of clicked together. What was happening in the principal's office, what her mom had been talking about before. The reason that she'd gotten in trouble in the past was because she was a slayer at her old school, and it caused her a lot of problems.
Right. So all the pieces are in place now. We now know Buffy's history and that she is running away because she does not want to be a slayer, probably. I don't know. I kind of get the sense that that's kind of the theme of maybe this episode, but also like maybe the first few seasons.
And then I was thinking, okay, so if she's the chosen one and there's only one and then she doesn't want to do it, what does that mean? Like, she's just like, nope, I'm not going to help.
Yeah. So we'll see if she has the ability to choose whether she's a slayer or not. But we get two girls in the locker room using some cool locker room talk for the 90s, late 90s.
Have you ever heard anybody say
I've
that?
never heard any of these things. So they keep saying neg and pause as like short for negative and positive.
And one time they say neg Lee.
Neg Lee. So they're definitely, it's probably just some made up stuff. And
I hope
then
so.
then the body falls out of the locker from the beginning of the episode. So meanwhile, Buffy is hanging out with Willow, and they're talking about the librarian who might be from the British Museum or something. Willow doesn't know for sure, but she loves the library, obviously. Xander and Jess show up to hang out, and Xander makes some terrible joke about knowing Buffy a long time, or they go way back, that kind of thing.
Oh, me and Buffy go way back, old friends, very close. Then there was that period of estrangement where I think we were both growing as people, but now here we are like old times. I'm quite moved.
And then it got me thinking, like, are they going to be an item?
That's what I thought. I thought, oh, this is going to be the love interest.
Right. And I mean, that's a little predictable. Obviously we won't know until we watch the final episode of the season whether that holds true. But I hope they get together. And
You're invested in it already.
I'm now fully on board.
You went from not liking Xander at all and being annoyed by his dialogue to shipping him with the main character. That was quite a journey.
Well, Yeah, I mean, like we'll see later on. There's some other options for Buffy, but I don't know. So far, all we got is Xander, and so we'll stick with him.
Okay.
So then they are in a one Starbucks town, which makes you think they're really kind of far out from LA. So maybe out in the middle of nowhere-ish in this made-up town.
Well, not much goes on in a one Starbucks town like Sunnydale. You're pretty big news.
And then Cordelia passes by and mentions the dead body, and Buffy heads out to go take a look. And she says, I got to book.
I got a book. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
That definitely, I do remember that being a thing people said. I couldn't
was.
remember it being said that late in the 90s, though.
I don't know about the time period for that, but another thing, morbid much. So that thing where people said much afterward, wasn't that over by then?
Yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah, so maybe they're hanging on to a lot of things that they think kids probably said, so maybe they're a little out of touch with what kids really were saying in the late 90s. I didn't say much after much.
Did you ever say that? I can't imagine you
I don't
saying
remember that. I kind of remember that being a thing, but definitely a booking was a way
to in a book.
Yeah, that was, and that maybe that'll come back.
Maybe we're bringing it back right now.
So then Buffy just heads over to the locker room where nobody is. There's just a dead body and no one around. So that was
no
convenient.
police tape, no detectives.
No, and so Buffy got a good look at the vampire bites on the dude's neck. So she heads back to the library to confront Giles. And then here she does say she doesn't want to be a slayer. And it turns out he is a watcher, which is
a trainer.
Right, the trainer or the people who get the slayers ready. And he's saying something bad is coming and that things are going to get worse. And Xander's in the stacks. Just apparently the librarian has no idea who is in the library at any given time and just talks about whatever.
Yeah.
But he overhears the conversation, which is probably going to be trouble.
And so now he has the stake that she dropped when she dropped her bag as well, plus this conversation.
Right.
So he's like, what's going on?
Yeah, but then when he confronts her about it, I still didn't get the sense of whether he actually believed any of it or he thought they were just being weird and talking about weird things.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I don't know how much he believes at the moment. But we cut to a bunch of vampires chanting underground about the sleeper waking. The sleeper will wake is what they say. And then it's like a temple with a big pool of blood in the middle.
So is that under the school? Like
I didn't get a sense for where it was.
I think that is what Hellmouth is, that thing under the school, and I think that's where that is. That's what I think. I don't know if you know and you're a Buffy person, let me know if I'm wrong, but I think that is Hellmouth, where the vampires are waking down there. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Well, I don't know where it is. I didn't get the sense that there was any particular location for where this was underground. But
okay.
Then there's a main vampire we're introduced to. And again, he's got that sweet vampire look that me and Jen love so much. So Mom and Buffy are now chatting. And so Buffy, we find out, is 16. She's in a new home, a new school. And the mom is looking to run a gallery.
Yeah.
So she must be like a curator or something. I don't know. She's looking for space to run a gallery. And so I'm thinking it might be like the main plot line of the series. Like
that the mom is going to run a gallery. Yeah, that's what it's going to be all about. When we go to the last 7 seasons further, we'll find out about the mom's art career.
She's finally found a place for her gallery, like at the end of season 7. I feel like if that's wrapped up nicely, that would be
You're onto something
awesome.
right there. Yeah.
Buffy was on her way to the
the David Boreanaz part where he talks
right.
her
Is that the actor
and gives her
the dude
the cross?
So the dude chanting in the underground layer.
That wasn't him. Mm-mm.
He said the sleeper will wake. Yeah,
that's
him.
Luke. David Boreanaz's character is called Angel. That's where the whole spin-off series Angel came from. Is from him.
Okay, so you know a little bit about this because I just knew that there was a guy named Luke. And I thought that Luke was the same guy as the guy who. Okay, so Buffy does a little handstand, and she gets the drop on someone who's chasing her. It's very 80s horror kind of like setup, and right
now you don't know who that guy is,
right? But we had just seen the guy going the Master will wake. It looked kind of like him, but that guy had the.
Why don't you say it is him? That will be great.
Yeah, I'm almost certain it is.
Okay.
Okay, so this guy Luke, as far as I know, is Luke. He's trying to sneak up on Buffy or follow her, and she gets a drop on him, and then they have a little chit chat. He says, "I don't bite."
Don't worry.
I don't bite.
So I don't know. Like, is he just not a nice vampire, or he doesn't? That's not his style. I don't know.
But she hasn't seen him as a vampire, so for all intents and purposes, she doesn't even know he is a vampire.
Right. He knows about vampires, obviously, and he says he wants to kill them all, which I guess doesn't jive with what Luke is doing.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we can trust this guy. He seems kind of shady, and he mentions the harvest coming, which I can only assume the final episode of this show is going to be about the harvest.
That's what I would think.
Yeah.
And then also, doesn't he give her like a cross?
Yeah, he gives her a crucifix. And so so I guess that now raises more questions about who this dude is, because I was pretty sure the guy chanting was Luke. Now I'll have to, is the same person. I don't know. Because it could be maybe he has an arc. Maybe he's a bad vampire at the start, and then he becomes Angel, who's a good character.
Maybe he's a vampire who hates vampires, and
right.
He.
But why would he raise the master? It's got to be someone different. But anyways, it's a guy because he has all those vampire features in the cave.
Mm-hmm.
We're not getting any further with the limited amount of information we have. So she gets the crucifix. But then we get the best part of the episode is Buffy going to the bronze. And do you want to tell me what you thought of the bronze?
I mean, it just seemed like a teenage movie thing where there's always this place where the cool kids hang out, but also the nerds go there too, obviously, since Willow's there. What did I think about it? I don't understand what it is. Is it a warehouse? Is it a rave? Like, what is it?
Right. So it's like
they sell non-alcoholic drinks.
It's like
there?
there's a music. So it's like a music venue.
Okay.
Kind of looks like a club, but like there's different levels. So it has that industrial look. All of these teenagers are drinking alcohol or mocktails.
I think they were mocktails,
but there's no way to tell. They're just there's no explanation. They're just all sitting there drinking things with cherries and stuff. That's a lot of kids drinking mocktails.
Yeah.
And there's also adults there.
There is adults there. The librarian is there.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people who looked a lot older than teenage age. So like, are they just
really
going out
confused.
to a club to hang out with teenagers, but they're not drinking drinks? Or can they drink drinks and there's mocktails for some and cocktails for others?
Maybe it's like a hookah bar.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they're setting it up to be, like you said, Seinfeld was the biggest show at the time. Like they needed a place for them to hang out.
So like Central Perk, or that's Friends, right?
Right, Central Perk, or the diner.
The diner in Seinfeld.
From Seinfeld, they're setting this place up to be that space, but I don't know.
Where Elaine orders the big salad.
I have a lot of questions. I don't know if you can get food here because Willow's here and she's eating raisins. And
as you do at a club.
As you do. And she was waiting for Xander, or hoping Xander would show up. And she reveals they've been friends since they were 5 years old at least. And that she has trouble talking to guys she likes. So, yeah.
Do you think there's going to be a love triangle between Buffy, Xander, and Willow?
No, I don't. I don't get the sense that Willow and Xander have anything.
Okay.
There's no chemistry there. I mean,
well, you're the expert.
There might be a triangle with Buffy, Xander, and Luke/Angel.
Okay. I could see it.
All right, because
Luke/Angel. Other Buffy
Some
fans right now are screaming at this podcast.
Yeah. All right. So Buffy tells Willow, "Seize the moment. Life is short," and Willow, takes this to heart and goes off to do that. And meanwhile, Buffy sees Giles and points out to him that he is being skanky.
So, you like to party with the students? Am I kind of skanky?
I mean, I agree.
Yeah. Not a good look for Giles, but also we have no idea what's going on, like what this place is. Like, like everyone in the town hangs out at this place.
Like maybe it's the whole town. Maybe it's like a town, like a community center that serves mocktails.
Yeah, this
for everyone.
One Starbucks town, and then.
Don't you wish we had a community center that served mocktails and had live music, and like teens could hang there and adults?
I guess. I don't know. At this point, I wouldn't want to go there, but maybe I would if I was like 16. So, then we get this weird Cordelia story. Did you get this? Where she was talking about her mom and says she has been diagnosed with Epstein-Barr's, but she says no way, she has chronic fatigue syndrome or hepatitis or something. And
her mom got bitten. That's what I was thinking.
Is that what you think? Okay, because I was like, why are we talking about how well her mom sleeps? And then she's like, she doesn't get out of bed anymore. So like, her mom's really sick. I don't know what they were setting up with this, but
maybe do they have blood slaves in this? You know, like in other things where they have like a servant that basically just supplies the vampires with blood, and then they get really weak and tired because they're low on vitamin B12 or whatever it is.
Right, and so they go back to the well.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe Cordelia's dad is a vampire, and he's using the mom to keep him alive.
Maybe
and she just
her dad is the master.
But I'm pretty sure you see the master come out of a pool of blood. But all right, it's not to jump ahead. But yeah. So then Jesse, kind of comes over and asks her to dance, and she says no in her mean little way.
It's funny how she's always so mean to these boys, but they just bounce back and they keep coming right back. It doesn't seem like it just slides right off of them.
Yeah, they're pretty clueless, or they're very persistent. But yeah, maybe it's a
teenage boy thing.
Yeah, and Buffy's still chatting with Giles about seeing. She's telling her she should be able to see vampires. Like, I don't know if she should be looking for a glow or something.
Yeah.
But Buffy can't do this, and so obviously she's lacking in her training.
But then she uses her fashion sense.
Right. So then she sees this guy wearing dated clothing, and she knows right away that he is a vampire, like without a doubt. And then he's also flirting with Willow. So Buffy's like on the move. She's got a book.
Did she say she's got a book again?
No.
Okay.
And then she's looking for Willow. She almost kills Cordelia with her stake.
Mm-hmm.
Cordelia is a little freaked out and pulls out a giant cell phone and says, I'm going to tell everyone about this.
It's like she pulls her antenna out. That was great.
It was probably the coolest phone in 97. And then, so she can't find Willow. Willow's going off on a night hike with this stranger. I don't know what she's doing or what she's thinking. They're just walking around at night. It's just a dude she met at a club. And then they go through the graveyard.
Oh, they were going to go to an ice cream shop because at one point Willow goes, the ice cream shop is that way.
Right. So maybe they had plans to go to an ice cream shop. And then he's like, change of plans. We're going to go to the graveyard. And she's like, all right. And then they head on in. I was screaming at the TV. And she's not. Yeah. So for as bright as she is, she's not very bright.
But she was kind of like my favorite. She was probably my favorite character. I don't know much about her, but she was the one that I liked the best.
I agree with that.
You do?
Yeah. I like.
She had something.
I like Buffy. Yeah, the rest of them. So Buffy runs into Xander, who knows about her being a Slayer, and then they're heading off to go chase down wherever Willow went, which is a mausoleum. Is that those upright above ground graves? Yeah, there's like a little mausoleum with a coffin inside, and they head on in there, and Willow's still along for the ride, and the blonde from the beginning shows up.
Leave us alone. You're not going anywhere until we fed.
The one that was the vampire in the school at night that got the guy.
Right. And she has Jesse with her. So she somehow miraculously, the whole gang gets together in this little mausoleum at the end of the episode.
But so at some point, didn't it already happen where the master asked some of his minions to go get him some young blood? Like,
right.
So there.
Luke was chatting with the master when the master came out of the pool of blood, and the master was like, "I'm hungry."
That's
like,
well, I mean, I don't think
I need to build my energy for the harvest. They're talking about this harvest. I guess we might have skipped that little bit, but yeah. So these two vampires, this guy with the dated outfit and the blonde gal, are collecting for the master. But they can have a little snack first, I think, is the sense.
Oh,
I
is
get.
that what they're gonna do?
Yeah. Well, I think that's what's going on here.
Yeah.
Sample the wares, and then Buffy arrives, and she starts, just doing that cool action hero
like,
talk.
I'm not scared.
She's insulting them, and the guy with the what were we gonna say? What was he wearing? Like that made him so dated. It was like a leisure suit kind of thing.
Suit?
Yeah, the zoot suit. It was kind of zoot suity. And he gets taken out pretty easily by Buffy, and then Luke arrives.
Oh, yeah, and he seems like
but
upper
who I also
tier.
thought was Angel.
I don't think that's the case, but I don't think so, because I don't think that. Okay, I just don't think it's him, because I don't. It's hard to say because I don't really know what that character would look like with the vampire makeup on, but I feel like the guy that is Luke is much more beefy and he's kind of more stocky than David Boreanaz, which is the actor that plays the other character that gives her the cross.
Okay. Turns out you were right.
Okay.
I was wrong.
You looking
the
it
whole
up?
time.
Okay.
Well, and I'm looking up the Buffyverse wiki. Luke is...
I mean, there is a resemblance. I'll give you that, but
he is played by Brian Thompson, who's not the guy who played.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was wrong. And it turns out he's only around for 2 episodes. So.
Oh, the Luke guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so Luke shows up and has a little fight with Buffy, and she gets thrown into the coffin, right, with the dead body.
Yeah.
It was
just open.
Yeah, maybe they had knocked the lid off, and then
yeah.
Everyone else escapes at this point, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to the blonde.
She ran after the kids. The other 2 vampires went after the kids that got away.
Oh, that's right, because they're all running outside, and then there's all these vampires show up, and that's and so Buffy's having this fight, and there's talk about the harvest coming and blood boiling and Master returning, and that's it.
And then it's kind of a cliffhanger because Luke throws her into the coffin, and then he's going in for the kill, and then it cuts to. That's it. It's a cliffhanger.
The gang getting.
So it's just, the thing is, what I read is the season premiere was episode 1 and 2. So really, we probably should have watched episode 1 and 2.
It's a lot of Buffy.
And then cut to the end because
I feel like we got enough of the first episode.
Yeah, it's funny because we'll just go from that cliffhanger where she's about ready to be killed, but kind of spoilers for us because it is a 7-season show. So we kind of have to assume that she doesn't get killed by Luke because otherwise, it could still be about her mom's art gallery.
Right. If that's the main thread of the show, then that can, with or without Buffy, that can continue.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think Buffy is probably lives past the first episode, and I think we're safe to assume. Yeah. What did you think? Like overall, you had any questions that came up?
Well, I was wondering about the chosen one. There's only one born, but they don't mention this, but is it always a girl? That's my question. I had that as a question.
Right. I think I remember that being the case.
I did have a question about Xander, if that's going to be her love interest.
Right. Or Luke and Buffy is what I wrote down, but I think I meant Angel and Buffy.
Yeah.
I just didn't know that guy's name after the first episode.
I noticed when she was dreaming, she was... like some of the things were Egyptian imagery. I wonder how that plays into it. Something I read, which I thought was really interesting, is the girl that played Cordelia, she actually went for Buffy's role. And is it Sarah Michelle Gellar, right? Mm-hmm. She went for the Cordelia role. And then the people that were in charge were like, oh, I think that they would be... I think
they made the better choice.
I do too.
I don't think that would have been a good switch.
Have you ever seen Sarah Michelle Gellar in anything else?
Yeah.
I saw her in the Scooby-Doo movie. I think that was it.
That was that one with Ryan Phillippe, Selma Blair, and Reese Witherspoon.
Oh, wait a minute.
Dangerous Liaison. It was like a remake of Dangerous Liaisons. I can't remember. I don't think I've seen her in much of anything, though.
Also, Selma Blair and Katie Holmes both tried out for the part of Buffy.
Oh.
That would have been different. Yeah. Much different.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to imagine anyone besides Sarah Michelle Gellar. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought she was fine as the lead role. Yeah, I kind of did like Willow's character. And then Cordelia seems like she's being set up to be kind of a school antagonist. Like maybe not like a big bad, but just like someone who's always just like...
It reminded me of Mean Girls a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just like this girl that likes to put people in their place, doesn't want people to get too, on top of themselves. She wants to be the one to decide whether you're cool or not by giving you a quiz.
Right.
And if you pass the quiz, then you're cool.
And we would have both failed the quiz, I think. Even in 97.
That's fine.
Yeah. So this it's like setting the table for the show in this first episode, but the table is like the kids' table at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
There's not much being set up here so far. It's kind of pretty tropey kind of thing. But, but yeah, these shows always get better. So we'll find out. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go watch the final episode of the show.
So it'd be season 7, episode 22?
The Chosen, premiered in May 20th of 2003. So let's go.
Okay.
And then we're back.
And back.
Okay, so we have now finished Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV show. And here's what... Let's just start with the beginning of the episode. I thought Luke and Buffy were smooching at the very beginning of the episode.
And you were like, I was right.
Yes, I was like, I knew that Luke guy. Turns out Buffy calls him Angel, and I'm like, oh, that's not Luke. That was, well, I was like, maybe Luke became Angel. I don't know what's going on. So, but I was right about the love interest thing. That guy who met her in the alleyway clearly had some sort of relationship with Buffy. They talk about how they're in LA now at the beginning of this episode. Yeah. There's a lot of dead people lying around. They're in like a dark room or dark kind of underground thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a continuation of something.
Yeah, and so we don't know what's going on really,
I was really
except
confused.
that Buffy and Angel are smooching, and then Buffy asks, "Why are you here, Angel?" And they kind of talk about there's some kind of evil dead army being raised.
And he gives her yet another piece of jewelry. So he's clearly the jewelry bringer of the show because he gave her the cross in the first episode, and here it is the very last episode, and he's given her another important piece of
so
jewelry.
He gives her the medallion thingy. We're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna call it, medallion.
Let's call it a medallion.
Necklace. Okay, medallion. Yeah. But right before he does that, one of the dead bodies gets up and totally whacks Angel in the back of the head and knocks him out. And it's
Nathan Fillion.
Yeah, so could have been Xander at one point, is now an evil priest with black eyes, like all black eyes,
with, like,
and
stuff leaking out of him.
Yeah, and he kind of says a not nice thing to Buffy.
Oh yeah, really not nice.
He says, "Are you ready to finish this, Buffy?" And then
yeah, right,
like Buffy. And then I was like, "Whoa!" And then we cut the credits, which is a slightly updated. Same song, but yeah, still not.
It's got that kind of pop punk kind of feel that was happening at the time, right?
Yeah, was it the same song though?
I think it was the same song.
I think so. They must have kept it all 7 years, and then they're fighting. Buffy. Do we have a name for this guy? I don't think we know his name yet. We find out later.
I find out later.
The pastor or the
Carl.
Caleb.
Caleb.
I'm jumping ahead in my notes, but
right.
So just so we can refer to him, Caleb, the preacher or something, has a fight, and they're going back and forth, and then Buffy gives him the killing blow with an axe to the crotch, I think is how it ends.
Oh yeah, and she says something really witty.
Yeah, well, and then Angel gets up like immediately once the fight ends and says like, "Oh," she says like he had to split or something.
Yeah,
and then she just giggles. It was.
He had to split.
It was an ugh moment for me.
That was like a Scooby-Doo. That was like a joke right out of a Scooby-Doo cartoon.
Right. It's not like, it wasn't super clever or anything, but it definitely feels like the show must have developed a certain sense of humor. Maybe this was it.
Maybe kind of camp, you know?
Yeah. So there's a blonde dude spying on them.
I was like, I don't know who
like,
this
guy
is.
was just spying on them the whole time Buffy was fighting Caleb and smooching Angel.
But wasn't there like somebody right next to him that looked exactly like Buffy?
Yeah, there was someone who ran off. I'm so track
confused.
Whether that person comes back later because I didn't really get a good look at them. So, but yeah, there was someone with him, probably one of the people that Buffy is training an army of.
Okay,
not to jump ahead, but this blonde dude does not seem happy that she was smooching Angel, and then Angel gives her the magical amulet. And then they like, "What's going on? He says he's with her. Sorry, that was weird. I'm going to take a dig on that. He says he's with her, but she doesn't want him to fight with her for some reason. She wants him as a backup.
But
in case
it's
she
one
fails.
of those things because I've watched so many soap operas and I've seen this happen so many times. The guy that's like spying is clearly some relationship with Buffy because the way they structured this is she's meeting up with her old flame and this guy's kind of waiting to see what happens. And then as soon as it seems like they're going to get together, the blonde guy leaves. And then right after he leaves, she goes, no, I'm not going to be with you.
One of those
and it's
moments
like,
that was like
gosh, okay, I see where this is going.
So it's a classic late 90s love triangle.
Yeah, that's what
I think
I
is what we call it. I watched a lot of Dawson's Creek back in the day.
Mm.
And I believe that was like pretty much the same time, same channel, maybe.
Did they reference that in this episode?
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Okay.
Like when Angel is going all Dawson's on her. So I would assume.
So you knew what that meant.
She must have been referring to like, what's the main guy? Dawson himself. Like how there's all those memes about him crying and going weepy and stuff. And maybe like she's giving him a hard time for that.
Oh, I see.
That's what I was figuring. But she does not want him to fight with her, whatever she's planning to do. And they talk about Spike, who must be the blonde guy. Like
I didn't
they're
know
discussing
it
whether
at the
he was her
time.
boyfriend or not. We don't know who Spike is. But there's something about Spike having a soul, and then Angel saying, "I was the first to make having a soul a cool thing for monsters," or something.
And that was supposed to be funny, I think.
You know, I started it. The whole having a soul. Before it was all the cool new thing.
Yeah, he was the having a soul thing was his thing. So my guess is he and Spike are vampires turned good. I was still under the impression that Angel was Luke, who turned good.
Yeah. So apparently there's something you can do as a vampire that will bring your soul back into your body. Maybe if you do some good works, like there's a certain amount of good works you do.
Right. Kind of like It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah. And then you can have an afterlife. And that's like the whole point.
Having a soul is when you die, you get to go.
Does that mean they're mortal? Or are they still
unclear at this
immortal
point? Maybe that was in the like 150 episodes in between, but
that we missed.
There has to be something in there.
Yeah, I think
it can't
so.
just be a lot of nothing.
Maybe the art gallery happened.
Yeah, maybe that's how they got their souls back. So we find out Angel and Buffy did have a relationship for a while. I'm just screaming at the TV like, "Where's Xander in all this?" You know?
Did he have a chance? Was he there at some point?
I don't know.
Maybe he was like 3 boyfriends ago.
Yeah. So, we're hopefully by the end of the episode we get to the bottom of whether Xander and Buffy were a thing as well. So she's talking about how she's bad at relationships and she is uncooked cookie dough. What did you think of this metaphor?
I'm cookie dough. I'm not done baking. Maybe one day I turn around and realize I'm ready. I'm cookies. And then, you know, if I want someone to eat or enjoy warm, delicious cookie meat.
You know, at first I was kind of like, what? But then by the time she got to the end of it, and I don't know, I kind of bought into it. Like once that she is a fully formed person, AKA cookies, then she will want a relationship with somebody. But right now, she's working on herself.
Right. She's
still
baking.
Cookie dough.
Baking.
She's baking. Exactly.
I got that. I got the metaphor. I was just when she said, "I'm ready. I am cookies. I just want someone to eat cookie me."
Do I have to go with the cookie analogy?
Yeah, that was
weird. It
weird.
goes off the rails a little bit in terms of metaphors. And then he's like, "I'll eat you." And it's like, what are we doing? So again, I think that must be kind of the humor of the show at this point. It's just doing stuff like this. We didn't go on that journey with them to arrive at this point where we can really fully appreciate.
We probably would have laughed so hard at that
Yeah.
if only we'd watched all the in between shows.
Watch that be like a reference to like something in season 2, like where she was cookies, like for an episode.
I did hear there was a musical.
A Buffy the musical.
Yeah, and I never, we obviously missed that.
Oh man,
it was called something like "Louder with Feeling."
So she's not done baking. She gets the medallion, and then there's a big maybe between them.
Yeah,
he takes off.
So I took that as like she never said, Spike is like my guy now, so I'm not going to be with you. She was like, well, maybe in the future when I'm done.
Right. So up in the air, and then she gets back home, and there's a new gal at whatever home they're at. I don't know where they are, but she gets kicked in the shins by this girl who we realize later is Summer.
Dawn?
Was
it Summer?
I don't know. We'll get back to that. And then Xander is here with an eye patch. So
oh yeah, an eye patch. I was like, man, he's been through something, right?
Yeah. Like, any hazard to guess at what happened to Xander's eye?
Maybe he was with Buffy. They were like together as an item. He was helping her do some slaying, and when she went to stake the vampire, she accidentally staked him in the eye.
She popped his eyeball out with a stake. Yes.
That's probably what happened.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't get out of my head that we just watched the latest episode of House of Dragons and there's an eyeball missing.
I know.
There's a lot of eyeball stuff going on
definitely.
in that show. But maybe it rotted out of his head when he had some affliction.
Maybe there was something going on like gangrene.
Yeah.
Like his eyeball. Yeah.
Or maybe like he had like a special eyeball that was like, could see the future and he had to rip it out because it was driving him mad.
Maybe he sacrificed it somehow for something.
Yeah. But yeah, who knows?
There's so many
we'll
things
never
it
know.
could be. Maybe we will know because after we're done and this podcast comes out, one of the many Buffy fans in the library will come up to us and tell us.
Jump in our feed, our Twitter feed, and let us know what's up.
Please do.
Okay. Yes. Hit us up on Twitter.
Let us know.
Okay. Yeah. So Eye Patch Xander is there, Willow, Giles, and there's a couple of new gals who aren't introduced to yet. And they talk about Caleb the Preacher. So that's when we find out who Nathan Fillion's character was, which is very odd that he was like the big bad of the episode.
Apparently.
But he's like not really in it. Like
I'm
this final
confused.
episode didn't really have like a final boss or whatever.
Like he basically
must
said
have
though.
he must have been the one they killed. Like she thought she had killed him in the second to last episode, and then.
But she tells him you're incorporeal. How do you say that?
Incorrigible.
You know what I mean.
You're incorrigible. Caleb the Preacher.
No, it's like
incorporeal.
Incorporeal. Thank you. And so she's not afraid of him. That's what she says.
Right.
But he said, my army's going to win. So is he the master? Like, what happened to the original master?
Right. We can only assume that Caleb is the new master
and
that he's dead before at the very beginning of the final episode. So that kind of weird choice.
Will he come back to life then if they do win?
No, a bunch of army of vampires without a leader.
He said he was going to rule the entire world.
Right. So maybe he would come back. Who's to say? And then we get to one of the girls is Xander's girlfriend. So there's a big bummer for me.
Yeah, sorry. I know how much you wanted Buffy and Xander
fine.
To be together.
We don't know who this gal is, but Xander's with her. And then we cut to Spike boxing in the basement.
Yeah.
Getting out some of his anger and jealousy. And then Buffy comes down. They have a little discussion. I didn't really write notes about what they said, but I know that he says she should give the medallion to him because he has a soul and is more than human.
A lot of the stuff he says is just jealousy stuff because he saw them together.
Yeah, and then Buffy kind of like makes him feel better by calling him a champion. I think that kind of smooths things over.
Did you see the drawing that was on the punching bag?
No. Was it Angel?
It was like the world's worst drawing of Angel.
Okay, so Spike draws like a 5-year-old,
yeah,
but he's like,
it was a very prominent forehead.
Yeah. Maybe it was Luke. Who knows?
They're like doppelgangers.
Yeah, they're the same person. And then so she calls him a champion, gives him the amulet, and then we cut to them snuggling in bed.
Aww.
And then she gets up to look out the window, and Caleb's back. So I'm like, what's up with this? Like, is this really a manifestation? Is this just in her head? Like, I have no idea.
That's what I was wondering. I hope we
thought
find out.
Yeah, so maybe he's dead. Maybe he has a spirit that lives on. Maybe he had a soul.
Maybe that's what happens if you're a vampire that has a soul and then you get killed.
You come back as a ghost vampire?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So he's still around, and then Buffy, they talk about Buffy's army of 30 or so Slayer girls.
Mm-hmm.
And then Caleb has an army of thousands of vampires. And then Caleb morphs into Buffy. And so then it becomes her facing herself. There's probably some metaphor here that I wasn't picking up on of like really her demon is herself or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then they talk about how for a new Slayer to come around, she has to die, and she will die alone. And she's super bummed. And then Spike gets up, and she's like suddenly very confident and says, so maybe she has a plan. I don't know. She says, we're going to win.
Mm-hmm.
So she turned her bummer into, I don't know where to go with that. Yeah. She somehow decided that she is not going to lose this battle. So we cut to a whole group of people in the house.
And it felt like, okay, from somewhere in there, though, she does come up with a plan. right? Like she has a plan, but we actually don't get to hear about it before it's like enacted. We kind of just have to watch it unfold.
Right, which is fine. That's a kind of a nice way to do it.
Is that
we
your
don't have
preferred
to get like a
way?
bunch of explanation of what's going to happen, rather than like just trying to wonder if this what's happening is like going to plan or not. So we cut to a big group of people, and she's just told them the plan. We missed that, unfortunately. And then they all think she's crazy. Giles likes the plan, and so does Faith, which is I feel like a big character here.
Yeah.
So she's like a big new character or newer character, played by Eliza Dushku. So she's kind of an odd duck, but she's super down with the plan.
She seems like a tough girl.
Yeah, and Willow is gonna have to do something to harness her power.
And I'm like, Willow has powers?
Yeah,
I thought she was just a regular person.
Right. So they mention a coven, so she must be like have some kind of like witch goddess powers. There's a lot of talk of goddesses, so that must be where she draws power from. So they kept Willow around and decided to give her a reason to be around. Maybe make her powerful, right?
Yeah, right.
Poor Xander just lost an eye, but Willow gets to be a witch with a lot of power.
We're a little bit ways into this episode at this point, and I remember that I thought that Seth Green was in this show. Like that's something like I thought I had seen on commercials. And we watched the first episode and we watched the last episode and no Seth Green. So he was in there somewhere, but we lost him before we
before we got to know him.
Yeah, dang it.
Too early.
I like Seth Green, so.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of character he would have played. Just like kind of a nerdy kid in school.
My daughter told me that Willow was his girlfriend.
Oh, interesting.
In it at some point.
Because Willow is together with somebody, one of the gang of Slayers that Buffy has. And Dawn, we find out, who I might have called Summer.
Yeah, is her sister.
Dawn, well, she's a junior watcher club. She's training to be a watcher.
Okay, cool.
Or that's what
she does say something about junior watcher. I just thought she was being sarcastic. Was it real?
No, I think she's probably becoming what Giles is, right? Because Giles won't live forever. Maybe he does. I don't know. Can't really say.
Maybe he's immortal. I don't know.
And so Anya is Xander's gal pal, and so we find out a little bit more about them. And then there's this scythe thingy, like the axe that she killed Caleb with, is like looks like an electric guitar. Like I don't know what was it. Like it's like chrome, red metal. Yeah. And so Buffy gives it to Willow for something for the spell, and then she gives a speech, which was rousing, probably really rousing if you're into the show and like knew what was happening. I was like,
but if you don't really know what's going on,
right?
It felt a little bit long,
for sure. And but I think that was probably like the heart of the show. This episode was supposed to be that speech. And then Buffy is going to be going down into Hellmouth now before the vampires are ready.
See, Hellmouth. That was the place, right? Where in the beginning that I thought was under the skull.
Turns out it is.
And I was right.
So congrats for really kind of piecing together this show. And sorry,
and that was really that felt very passive aggressive.
That's a problem of mine. I noticed one of the characters, one of the Slayers, is Felicia Day as V, which I feel like she and Nathan Fillion have done a lot of stuff with Joss Whedon, but they also do a lot of things with each other. And
I didn't notice that first, but now that you say that, yes. But also, I noticed someone else, Millie from Freaks and Geeks. Do you remember?
Was she the lead?
No, Millie was her friend that she'd been friends with from school that was kind of a nerd and kind of helped her babysit and do different things like that. And she was like her neighbor.
She was a Slayer?
She was a Slayer.
Oh, cool. So
she was in the D&D scene. You know, there's that scene where they're all sitting around playing D&D.
That I think is coming up soon. We'll get to that.
I'm sure you didn't leave that out since that's kind of like your thing.
But no, we have a scene with the principal, who I didn't write down his name. And Faith, where they're blocking up like passages to the sewers to kind of help channel the vampires when they come up above ground. and they're talking about them having a thing. Faye says something along the lines of "Rock'em Sock'em" when referring to the way they
like this whole conversation.
They did their thing, and that I didn't like. I was just more bad dialogue. If it's not Xander, it's Faith. Now.
This whole conversation was horrible, and it was painful to listen to.
Yeah. I don't think it was the principal was fine in the scene.
Yeah.
Like he was pretty reasonable. I think it was Faith and her character or whatever.
Maybe she kind of rubs me the wrong way. Not my type of gal.
Right. Then we find out that Willow's in a relationship with one of the Slayers, and they're going to be going together into extreme danger, whatever that might be. And we cut to the Giles and Xander and random guy in cloak and girl playing D&D. Millie.
Yeah.
And they do it to make it sound like they're planning, before they reveal the game board, they're planning what they're going to do to kill the vampires. And then no, they're just playing D&D. And then Xander's gal is kind of like conked out on the table.
And they say, who could sleep at this time like this? And they cut to her and she's sleeping.
Right. And then we cut to a bunch of people not sleeping, staring off into the distance or up at the stars.
It's like the night before the battle.
Yeah, which is what it is.
It is what it is.
And Sunnydale. I wrote Sunnydale here. So
it is Sunnydale.
Sunnydale High. It looks like a war zone the next day. There's no one around, so not really sure where people are. I went with the idea that they weren't around the school, but the town was still like doing a thing. The ending becomes a lot darker when you think of it that way.
Okay.
But we'll get to that.
So
like we just like they just show the school and there's no one around. It could be anything going on.
Right. So was the whole town abandoned at this time?
Right. But I didn't get that impression just off of this episode that the whole town was abandoned.
Yeah.
Where they're going to make their stand. They're the normals, the people who don't have special power. They're going to fight the vampires as they come up, and the rest of them are going to go down into the Hellmouth, and then Willow's going to do her spell, and Spike's going to go with Buffy as well. And then we get a cool scene, which is probably the only moment where I feel like there was a callback to the first episode, which is they're all hanging out in the hallway, the four people from the original episode, talking about going to the mall or something.
Yeah.
And then they have this moment where they all start walking down the hall together, and then they leave.
They peel off to go do the things.
But in the reverse order that they met Buffy in the first episode.
What?
Right.
Whoa. Mind blown.
I off the top of my head, I probably couldn't tell you the exact order, but she meets Giles first, Xander first. I don't know. Willow. I can't remember who she meets first.
Yeah, no, I think.
But I remember writing down hey, that's the kind of the thing about the order in which they peel off. So that was probably something for the super fans.
I know.
And
you caught it.
Me.
Yeah. All right.
So they're all take off, and then there's this horrible effect when Buffy and the Slayers remove the seal to the Hellmouth, and then because it was 97, it was not much to be expected. And then we cut to Willow doing a spell, which is great. But Team Buffy goes down underground, and there's like tens of thousands of vampires in a giant pit. And it's
Do you know what it looked like? It honestly, okay. So I think this episode came out before the Lord of the Rings, but it kind of reminded me of the poor man's version of maybe the Mines of Moria or whatever, when all the orcs are swarming.
Right.
What do you think?
I did read that there was a digital effect used to make thousands of people. So it was an early, this was maybe but also Lord of the Rings, their effects were kind of state of the art. I don't think these effects are state of the art.
It just reminded me of that. That's what I thought of the first time. The whole look of it.
Insurmountable odds, 30 vampire slayers and Buffy and Spike. And then they don't bother to hide themselves. They're just kind of standing up top looking at them.
Hopefully
and then
they don't see us.
All of a sudden the 10,000 vampires turn around. They're like, hey. So that was kind of bad. And then Spike's not getting the medallion to work. He's kind of worried about it. Buffy's like, hey, I'm not worried. So for whatever reason, I'm not sure. And then the army of vampires sees them and charges up the hill. And they say something about Willow really needing to hurry with the spell. So clearly the spell is important. And then Willow does the spell. She says, oh my goddess, she's in a beam of light.
Oh my goddess.
And now?
And then we get a flashback to them planning where they're talking about how a bunch of men decided that only one Slayer at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But Willow has the power to undo that decision and make it to be any potential Slayers can be Slayers.
In every generation, one Slayer is born. Because a bunch of men who died thousands of years ago made up that rule. They were powerful men. This woman is more powerful than all of them combined.
At one time.
Right. So now, everyone's going to get souped up on power. And I guess that's the hope, is that these 30 people will be so powerful they can kill tens of thousands of vampires.
Did they really say tens of thousands?
Well, it's a lot.
That seems unrealistic.
I feel like when I read about the effect they used, they made tens of thousands. I don't know if we're supposed to actually think that, or if that was just I don't know.
And then there's some fighting. The fighting starts happening.
Right. The spell goes off, and then we get the cutscenes of all these little girls and people suddenly hitting home runs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We actually didn't get to see the girl hit the ball. I think that would have been fun to just see her smash it out of the park.
It was a real female empowerment moment.
Right. So they took the power the bunch of men had decided to give them, and they took it back and reclaimed it.
From now on, every girl in the world who might be a Slayer will be a Slayer. Every girl who could have the power will have the power.
So now we got a bunch of super-powered vampire slayers, which is great.
But is that really going to help them in the situation they're in right now?
Well, we find out it doesn't really.
Yeah, so I was kind of.
I think, but they can kick and fight better, and stab more vampires, which is what we're going for.
Mm-hmm.
And Willow's hair turns white, and she's like, I don't know what's up with it, but then it doesn't turn white. Does it turn back to her normal color?
It turns back, yeah.
Right, and then her girlfriend runs off to go be a Slayer and bring the scythe down to Buffy. And then they're kicking butt, and the vampires start heading up the sewers to the school.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's going on with mortals fight them with swords? Yeah, I didn't get why we had a bunch of mortal people fighting vampires with swords, but I guess they had to do something.
Yeah, even is it Giles, right? That he was crossing swords. The principal was crossing swords.
Right. So we had a bunch of vampire sword fights, which was pretty cool. And then Spike's medallion starts working. He doesn't really seem to have control over it. He seems to be overwhelmed by the power of it at first.
Mm-hmm.
Then Buffy gets stabbed.
I know. Totally, I was just like, what?
It was one of those moments where she gets stabbed, and then
Then she kind of got a second wind.
A lot of people get stabbed and get second wins in this episode, which is like, you really have to rely on your willing suspension of disbelief to get through it. I know we're watching an episode about vampires and
Slayers.
Magic and stuff like that, but I hate that continuity stuff. Where it doesn't. You can tell
either.
he doesn't care about what makes logical sense. He's just trying to get through the story. But yeah, she gets stabbed. Faith takes the scythe and starts fighting, but she gets swarmed. Xander's gal, I'm just blanking on her name, gets rocked by a sword.
Yeah.
So she's down.
Oh yeah. And she's with the Dungeons and Dragons guy, right?
Right. And then the principal gets stabbed as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Slayers are going down all over the place. And then Buffy's double appears.
But
he taunts her, or it's her.
The ghost or whatever.
Yeah. It's just, she gets taunted, and then she gets her second wind. And then we never hear about her stab in the back again, which
she says, "Get out of my face!"
Yeah, and then her big stab wound goes away, and she is back up, and then everyone's fighting and doing great, and then Spike goes off with his amulet,
and it is amazing.
Yes, he glows and kills a bunch of vampire and says he can feel his soul, and so this is his moment, I guess.
I can feel it, Buffy.
What?
My soul. It's really there. Kind of stings.
It is really, I mean, if you had been on this journey this whole time with these people and watched him grow as a character, I bet you when he came in, he was super unlikable. How much you want to bet? Unlikable, and then he had to grow on you over time. I could see it all. It was almost like I was there.
Bad boy becomes kind of bad good boy.
Bad good boy.
Bad good boy burns up in a
sacrificial moment.
Yes. And so he and Buffy have a hand touch that turns into flames, which was great.
What did you make of those last lines?
I love you.
No, you don't. But thanks for saying it.
She
What
said,
were we-
I love you.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, no, you don't.
But thanks.
But thanks.
Yes.
And you know why? Do you think that's because of Angel?
Yeah, freers her up.
Yeah.
I think this all is about freeing up Buffy, like
Yeah.
to do what she wants with her life. So
Yeah, okay.
fine. Yeah, it was convenient that they had a special magical amulet that kills all vampires everywhere.
And
then
also kills him.
And then, kills him. So now with Spike's out of the equation, sorry to people who stand Spike. He's
Spike
not,
shippers out there are not happy. They cried. They
Yeah.
probably cried during this part.
So now we got a big earthquake. Ground starts shaking. Xander's looking around for Anya. Can't find her. And then Buffy has to leave Spike behind, and now they're on the run. So everyone runs outside. They get on buses that the principal has ready. So they're taking off out of town.
They're taking off, yep.
Buffy comes out and hits the roof.
And might be one of the worst special effects I'm sorry that I've ever seen in my life. It took me out of the show so bad. Like I was actually had gotten kind of into things, but then when this happened, I was just like, oh, she's not going to jump. Oh yeah, she is.
So she's jumping from roof to roof as the buildings fall
collapsing.
into a giant crater that's being formed.
And then she jumps onto a
The bus.
moving school bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she is a Slayer, so.
I know, but
yeah, I actually didn't mind it too much. I'm sorry, it was a disappointing ultimate like it was the ending moment, last action moment of the show. So it was fine, and then Buffy gets onto the bus, and then the whole town just collapsed into a giant crater.
and that's when you're hoping that the town has been evacuated.
Right. So my immediate thought was wow, there's thousands of people just died.
I know. So
But no one's crying.
so it must be evacuated because maybe that happened in the
it must be, but but based off of how we're watching the show, we can't assume that.
which is wow, that's dark.
There wasn't a lot of tears at the end of the episode, so they pull the bus over right on the edge of the crater, and they're looking out, and then Sunnydale's just a big hole now. So a bunch of people may or may not have just died, and they all stand and reflect and look down and joke about the mall. And so it was kind of a weird time for a bunch of mall jokes.
Yes, because the mall was actually in Sunnydale, so there's no hope of going there tomorrow.
You destroyed them all? I fought on the wrong side.
Since everything had been destroyed.
Right. So there was not a tear to be found, but I feel like the tears were on the audience's side.
Yeah.
Maybe. Did you have some tears?
Do you think it was, not really. I felt like, I hope that the people that watched the show from the beginning to the end were really satisfied with that ending. I did not find it satisfying, and I'm only hoping that's because I miss a lot of the character growth and everything that happened in between to take them to this point.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was a really good, season finale, but it just, it fell flat for me because maybe I just wasn't invested in it enough.
Right. So, yeah, I think it was pretty flat for me too. They all just stand at the edge of the crater, and Buffy is told that she can now do what she wants, which I think is the kind of tie from the first episode to the last.
Yeah, you're not the one and only chosen anymore. Just gotta live like a person. How's that feel?
Because now she could have a normal life because every girl that could be a Slayer is a Slayer. So it's not just all on her shoulders.
Being responsible. Spike's not around, so she's going to go find Angel probably.
After she gets done baking her cookies.
I'm cookie dough.
Yeah, or maybe she and Xander will finally get back together because Xander's
yeah.
Anya didn't. She perished as well. So Buffy gives a little smile. The end.
That's it.
All right. So probably not sad enough, these characters at the end, but
yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, I know a lot of people love the show and they take it to heart, whether or not they were just at the perfect age when it came out to really kind of identify with Buffy or not. I don't know if that's the case, but because I kind of missed it, it seems like to me that it's like a female empowerment from a male's perspective. Does that make any sense? It's like these strong female characters are only strong, but it's from a male gaze in a way, because they're committing violence, because they choose to commit violence in their sexy
from the creator's
clothes.
Sense too, it's Joss Whedon's take on feminism.
Yeah,
essentially
100%. Yes, it's
kind of distorted. Probably not the ideal perspective. Probably wouldn't fly as easily nowadays.
But I did read that one of the reasons that he created Buffy, or the idea behind Buffy, was that in all these horror movies, there's this, and this is like something he said, this little blonde girl that always gets like the first to go, the first to die. And he wanted to subvert that and make a different end for that type of character. And that's where the idea of Buffy came from. So, I mean, I think that's a decent idea.
Yeah. And if that carried throughout the show, then yeah, it probably worked to some extent.
It's like the opposite of like a damsel in distress. Like, she's the cool one who's not scared of anybody and kicks everyone's butt, right. I there's something to be said about that.
And it probably was kind of breaking a little bit of ground in
for the
late
time.
90s. Yeah, I don't know. I think the way I would sum it up is if you had watched Buffy before and have nostalgia about it, maybe don't go back and watch it because it might destroy your nostalgia.
Yeah.
Like, if you went to the Enchanted Forest as a kid and then
What?
as an adult you go back.
I go back all the time. Okay. What? That doesn't. That's. I love the Enchanted Forest.
Are you an Enchanted Forest adult?
Yes,
like the Disney adults, but for people who live in Oregon.
I am, but there are things that I have rewatched that haven't held up.
Right.
Like Three's Company. It's not as funny as it was.
Yeah. So this seems like it might be one of those shows where you might have really enjoyed it, or maybe when you watched it in the 2000s or whatever, but it might not be as good as you remembered it. So maybe leave that nostalgia alone.
Agreed. Yeah. Agreed.
Would be my recommendation. But then there's going to be people who rewatch it every year who are going to be like, you guys are...
Yeah, I mean,
being really mean. Hopefully, we're not being mean. I don't know. The show was fine, but still not my cup of tea.
But take everything we're saying with a grain of salt, because we literally watched the first episode and the last episode in a 7-season series that went on for years. So, I mean, maybe I'm just saying, maybe if we would have stuck with it and watched it, ongoing, maybe at some point it would have hooked us and we would have become invested in the characters. I mean, it could have happened.
Yeah, well, I think to go with that, let's usually I'd think we could give a rating, but I think what might be kind of fun to do here is take a Buffy the Vampire quiz to see how well you know Buffy.
Oh no.
So we'll just see how we do and see if our little idea worked here. So this is from entertainment.ie, which must be an Irish website. So the first question is, what role did Sarah Michelle Gellar first audition for?
Oh, I told you that. It's Cordelia.
Cordelia. So good. What season did Faith first appear in?
Oh, I'm going to say
1, 2, 3, or 4.
Let's say 4.
I actually was thinking the same thing. Ooh, it was 3.
Oh.
What was the name of the Jamaican vampire slayer from season 2? Carrie Ann, Kendra, Karma, or Kathleen?
For the show, I gotta say Karma.
Karma. No, Kendra.
Oh, darn.
Ooh, here's Angel and Buffy picture. What was Angel's human name? Oh, it's Luke. No, Luke's not an option.
Oh, if it was,
I was like, I was right. No, Liam, Patrick, Dracula, or Keith. He seems like a Liam. I feel like
Liam. Let's go with Liam.
Yes. I don't know why I got that one right.
Jake.
What happens to everyone in the episode Once More with Feeling? Buffy tries to kill them all. They all lose their voices. They turn into a musical, or they turn into Halloween costumes.
The musical one.
Okay. Yes, you're right. You do know this.
I only knew about the musical. It sounded interesting.
Name these terrifying vampire villains. So I'm going to do this kind of skeleton-like vampire villains. These actually look really much better than...
Actually, they do.
Yeah. Do you think they're the first, the Baldies, the Gentlemen, or the Initiative?
The Gentlemen, I guess.
You're correct. What happened to Xander in the final season? He lost his mind, lost his arm, lost an eye, or he got lost?
I'm guessing he lost his eye, but please tell us how it happened.
Who got the last ever line in Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Giles, Faith, Dawn, or Buffy?
We just watched it.
Buffy.
I'm going to say Buffy.
No, it was Dawn. I thought it might be Dawn. What song is played when Buffy and Angel have their breakup dance at prom?
Oh, I have to know this.
We got Wild Horses by the Sundays.
Oh, wow.
Sarah McLachlan, Full of Grace, or Michelle Branch, Goodbye to You. I'm going to say Sarah McLachlan or the Sundays.
I'm going to say the Wild Horses.
Okay. Yeah, hey.
Would that be perfect for something like that?
What was the name of the lucky steak gifted to Buffy by another Slayer? Chuck, Mr. Woody, Mr. Pointy, or Mr. Stakey?
Mr. Stakey.
Wrong, it was Mr. Pointy. All right. So what's the name of the fast food joint Buffy works at in season 6? Trendy Burger, Fatso Burger, Double Meat Palace, or Good Burger?
I'm going to say it's not Good Burger, that's for sure. Let's Fatso Burger. Let's go with that.
Fatso Burger. Oh, wrong. It's Double Meat Palace.
Double Meat Palace? Yeah. Oh my God.
Okay, what made everyone fall in love with high school quarterback RJ in the episode Him? He was a demon, a locket, a varsity jacket, or a ring? This is him.
Demon.
No, his varsity jacket. Yeah. What was the former vengeance demon Anya was most afraid of? So Xander's girlfriend. Cats, rabbits, commitment, or dying? I don't feel
Rabbit.
Like rabbits. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, we're right.
You know why? Mary Kelly was afraid of rabbits, and that's what made me think of it.
Yeah, so we got 2/3 right. So is that a sign that our experiment worked?
I think it is.
Yeah, so
we know
everyone,
a lot about Buffy.
We watch Buffy so that you don't have to. And I think that'll about do it for the episode.
Yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yes. So yeah, hit us up in wherever you can.
On all our social medias.
Social media. You can find us in the library. That's where we work.
If you come up to me and say, Xander's eye, this is how he lost it. And I would love that because I really want to know.
Yeah.
I could Google it, but that would be way more boring.
Yeah, we would rather hear it from you. So feel free to talk to us about the show. Sorry if we disappointed you with our impressions, and we'll be back next time with another cool TV show to wrap up with a first and last episode.
Bye.
Bye.